Hello, Revere, and welcome to the Revere Senior News for the month of November. Our special guest, Mr. Steve Reardon, attorney at law and who considers himself a country lawyer. Welcome.
Thank you, Morris.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
Before we start the show, Steve over there has a question for you, Steve.
Sure.
No, as an attorney, I'm sure you have a wide range of disciplines that you practice in. And one of them, obviously, on this show, elder law, is trust. Setting up a trust, safeguarding your assets. How do you go about doing that?
Well, the most important thing is you need to determine what your goals are. Most people, when they get to a certain age, their goal is to protect their assets and allow them to be subject to or admitted to a long-term care facility while Medicare pays for it. But you can't do that if you have significant assets. And in most people's case, particularly in a city like Revere, your home is your most significant asset. So at some point, as people start getting, up in years and may be in a situation where they could go into a nursing home, they want to set up a trust, an irrevocable trust perhaps, and it's one way to protect that asset. But there are certain conditions. There's a look-back period, so you have to start reasonably early and start planning at least reasonably early.
What is an irrevocable trust, if I may ask?
Well, an irrevocable trust is a trust. It's a donor trust. That means the people who own the property are donating it to the trust. The trust is an individual thing all by itself. It has beneficiaries and a trustee as well as the donors. But once the donors in an irrevocable trust have donated the property, it is not reversible. That's why they call it an irrevocable trust. And Medicare will respect an irrevocable trust, but if the individuals maintain any interest in the property at all, they could be disqualified from Medicare services, long-term health care services. So that's the big concern.
Okay.
One of the questions I have, Steve, is the people that are creating the trust, whether it's irrevocable or revocable, what is their biggest challenge? Who to put in charge of the trust, or who's going to manage it, that kind of thing?
Those are all, that is one of the big situations, but one of the big problems that you have with an irrevocable trust is that you have to trust the trustee to do what you would like him to do or her to do, and it's technically not, it technically cannot favor the donors. So that's a concern. Typically, family members are the best trustees, children in particular, particularly if the children are going to be the beneficiaries of the trust in the long run as well. So all of those things have to be considered, and that's why people have to come in and sit down and talk, and I have to talk to them about what their goals are, what their health situation is, and what their other concerns are.
One other question, just a follow-up. So if somebody does not set up a trust and something happens to the individuals who should have set it up, obviously the state comes in, and then there's probate and all kinds of things that can prolong any kind of decision making on what happens to the property and that.
Well, the bad news would be that the state would say, I'm sorry, you're not eligible for long-term care unless you're willing to pay for it for up to potentially 5 years or even longer if you don't do anything, even when you are faced with long-term care issues. So yeah, that you could easily lose the value of the home. Monthly long-term nursing home type care is probably in the vicinity of $15,000 a month right now, and that can easily eat away the value of a home in a couple of years.
Right. Now, I have a question for you. When is the best time to plan?
Well, there's no bad time. There's time for planning and time for action. They don't necessarily meet. But I would say any married couple or any people who are approaching middle age should start thinking about it at the very least. And then as they get older, if their health deteriorates, they need to start planning immediately.
Right. Well, let me ask you, if there's a conflict sometimes between, let's say, the family, how does that work out?
Well, again, I encourage people who own the assets to be the decision makers. You have a right as an elderly person, as a young person, as anybody. If you own a home, you have a right to make that decision, and you shouldn't allow your family, whether it's extended or otherwise, be too influential in that planning. So you have to make your own decisions. You have to be strong enough to make your own decisions and not allow one sibling, for instance, if you have children, one sibling might be stronger than the other, but you still have to respect that you have other siblings that you might want to take care of, and you got to think about that as you're going forward.
Let me ask, this is a question that I'd like to know. If I have kids, do I have to give the power of attorney to the oldest one, or I can give it to anyone?
You can give a power, you can offer, a person can serve as the attorney in fact. Anybody can serve as an attorney in fact. You can get an actual attorney, or you can get a friend that you like, or a child. You don't have to give it to anybody in particular. Someone that you trust, the person you trust most is probably the best person to do it. And it's a relatively simple act, and it only should be given when there is an issue, in my opinion anyway, when there is an issue of whether you'll be able to perform some of the financial duties that you have to yourself as you get older. And if you think there's an issue there that you won't be able to make it to the bank, that maybe you won't be able to, maybe your eyes don't work as well as they used to, those are the times when you want to think about getting a person to act as your attorney in fact.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
So if you step back a few years before that, decision-making has to be done. Obviously, a will, to me, seems to be the first step, you know, towards thinking long-term like that.
Well, again, it's all about the context. Now, typically, when I do a will for a married couple, I do what I call cross wills. In other words, the husband would name the wife as his beneficiary, first beneficiary, and the children as contingent beneficiaries, because, you know, occasionally things happen real fast when people pass away. The husband might die and the wife might die before there's any opportunity to change the will. So you have to have a contingent beneficiary, although the law does rank a hierarchy of heirs that an estate would automatically go to under the law. For instance, the spouse and the children would be the first to be in line under the law if you did not have a will. But I always encourage people to make a will, and more importantly perhaps, or as importantly anyway, to update their will, or at least review their will every year or two, and as they get older, even more often.
Right. You got another question?
Well, the only thing is I wanted to add is in making up a will, the reason you do that is so that you have a say in where your belongings, your property, et cetera, is going to be going.
It's true. That is true. In most cases, however, the will kind of mirrors what the law would require in any case. However, there's all sorts of tangential issues, such as, for instance, sometimes mothers like to leave their special jewelry to a daughter, something like that. So in a typical situation of an intestate person, that's a person who dies without a will, the probate, someone applies to the court to probate the estate. In other words, that person is considered what's called a personal representative, but only if the court assigns that person. Okay. Now, you can choose to select a personal representative of your will, but it's not incumbent upon the court to allow that person to be the personal representative. The probate court always has that jurisdiction. Of course, I always tell people that one of the basic things you want to plan as you go forward is to avoid probate if you possibly can. Take it out of the jurisdiction of the court by settling your assets in ways that they might be jointly held by other parties. For instance, a husband and wife typically own a home together, right, as joint tenants, or what we call tenants by the entirety. That means when, say, the husband should pass away, the wife automatically gets the house, so it doesn't fall into a probate situation. Mm-hmm. Of course, the party that remains, the husband or the wife that is left after their spouse passes away, has to then start thinking about how do I avoid probate going forward, or at least adjust the will perhaps.
Right. Is that costly to go through probate?
It can be expensive depending on the nature of the assets and how difficult it is to gather the assets, and frankly, how difficult it is to ameliorate the heirs. Sometimes heirs are left out, and that they don't like that out of a will, for instance, and a will has to be drafted. So it's clear that if someone is left out who would normally be considered the beneficiary of someone's estate, that you explain in the will why you're doing it, at least to some extent. Mm-hmm.
Steve, if people have questions and they wanted to contact you, Can they call you at a number?
Oh, yeah, they have my number. I think the number's on the screen. But, yeah, they can call me at my office, 781-284-4900. As you know, Morris, I'm right here in Revere on Winthrop Avenue, next to Latanzi Insurance Agency.
And your hours are there, if I may ask you?
We're there 24/7 as far as answering phone calls are concerned, or at least receiving phone calls, and we'll get right back to you. I have a secretary that's typically there portions of every day during the week, and I'm usually there in the late afternoons myself. As I said, we're a country law office.
What do they call you, a country lawyer, if I may ask?
I call myself that in a way, and a country lawyer is, I think, someone who basically serves the needs of the community, not necessarily specializing in any one thing, but doing a variety of things that serve the community, and that's what I do.
That's good. You have another question?
No, you had something about guardianship, I think, or something
Right.
like that.
I was going to speak about healthcare, maybe.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not a doctor. You know that, right?
No, I'm talking about that. Well, you're a lawyer, doctor.
No, yeah, I am a doctor. I'm a doctor of laws, unfortunately, yeah. So I really can't speak too much about healthcare unless you have a legal question that implicates legal issues.
Okay, I do have a good legal question. I'm in a nursing home, and I'm a mistreated. Do I have any legal recourse from the nursing home?
Well, we see a lot of that. We see a lot of improper treatment of the elderly in nursing homes. Not all nursing homes are qualified. I would say that anybody who is thinking about that they might need nursing home care in the future should do some research into what are the better places to go and what places have reputation. You can go online and find an awful lot of information about the good ones and the bad ones, and it's probably not a bad idea to do that or have someone in your family do that. Hopefully family members. The problem is, of course, when someone is about to be admitted or needs to be admitted to a nursing home, they're not necessarily capable of getting this information and assimilating this information. So they need to rely on their children, perhaps, or other members of their family to help them make those decisions. But preparing and researching is the key to finding the best place to go.
Okay, I have this question then. If I'm going into a nursing home, does my house automatically go to the nursing home if it's in a trust or in a will?
Well, that's the purpose of one of the purposes of creating an irrevocable trust or otherwise transferring the home would be to avoid that.
And how many years do you have to do that before you go into the nursing home?
It depends on the situation. A direct transfer of real estate to, for instance, a son or a daughter or some other human being requires a 3-year look back or 36-month look back period. A trust requires a 60-month look back
So
or
it's 5 years
5-year
and 3 years.
look back period, yeah. And
Right.
that means that Medicare will say, okay, if your home has been in a trust, say for instance for 2.5 years, you got to pay 2.5 more years of monthly cost to the nursing home before we will cover it. If you have 48 months, it's 12 months. If you have 59 months, it's 1 month.
That's
So
great.
That's what's left. But it goes from the date that you put the property into trust.
Right, Steve. We've got about a minute and a half left. Why don't you take yourself and talk what you would like to do about?
Well, I would say to people who are getting older that they absolutely look at their estate situation and they consult with an attorney, whether it's me or somebody else, even just briefly, just so they understand what their options are, what they might think about doing. I was with a couple today in the city who live in the city, and I explained their options today, and they are at the point in their lives where they need to start thinking about what's going to happen to their belongings after they go. And that's that's about as easy a way as I can put it, but it's a life cycle. We're not on this earth forever. So, but sometimes the stuff we leave behind can be here for a lot longer than we are, including the estate of a person, of people. We work hard all our lives, and we establish value in our homes and in our property and other investments, and we have to think about where they're going, where these things are going to reside when we pass on. And it's never too early to start thinking about it.
Nope.
And it's never, but it could be too late.
Right. Steve, I want to say thank you for taking the time to come on and explain a little about elder law. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure, always,
Right.
Morris. You, Steve, also.
Thank you very much.
And tell the folks at the Senior Center I'll be up to see them soon.
We'd love to have you.
Right. Thank you.
Now that I'm a member.
You got to be over 60, Steve.
I'm well over 60.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you for coming,
Okay.
and
Thank
I
you.
do mean that.
Well, Morris, we lost a very good friend of ours at the end of October. Roger Naples passed away at the age of 97. And as you know, Roger was well known in Revere, but certainly in Bruin circles.
Definitely.
So you remember Roger fondly at the Senior Center for many years. Why don't you share something about Roger that you might recall?
Right. Roger and I were very good friends. We were both World War II veterans, but Roger was more of a World War II veteran because he was in actual combat. I was not. But Roger would love the Bruins, and he loved Bobby Orr.
You're not kidding. I mean, he used to show me his phone and say, I have Bobby Orr's personal phone number.
Right, but
And
he gave me a picture of Bobby Orr, autographed by Bobby Orr,
Yeah.
which I still have at home.
Very nice. Yeah, Roger was a really nice man. Of course, he was known beyond Revere because of his involvement in the Gallery Guards. And we know for many years the Gallery Guards were perched on the 3rd level at the old Boston Garden, and they were diehard Bruins fans.
And it's sad because Roger, like I mentioned, was a veteran of World War II. And talking about veterans, you have some special things coming up for veterans, I understand.
Well, being the month of November, obviously Veterans Day is celebrated.
Right.
Unfortunately, you know, we're not at work on November 11th. So what I would plan to do is have a little recognition service at the Senior Center, at the Rossetti Cowan Senior Center on November 9th, which is a Thursday. And we would do that right after lunch. I know in the past, in the last 4 years that I've been there, we have had book signings and authors come, particularly the Jared Monte story author.
Yep.
And we've had Paul Monte, obviously, as a guest. We've recognized veterans in many different ways. And this year, I think we will have a salute to veterans immediately after lunch.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you one thing. Since the Senior Center is for 60 and over for seniors, but any veteran who is a veteran can come?
We'd prefer them to be 60
60
years
and
old.
over?
Yeah, 60 and
Okay.
older, absolutely. And as we're speaking about veterans right now, you know we have a computer class at the Senior Center, and I just want to let all veterans out there know, whether you're 60 or not, okay, you can take our 5-course computer class for free. And I extend that to veterans only. Normally the charge is $20 for 5 classes, and you are instructed by one of our instructors named Brenda, and we work in conjunction with Mass General Hospital's Health Education Institute, and the woman who is the director of that is Ming Sun, and they have a program that is designed to help anybody who wants to learn basic computer skills.
Great. Steve, I have to ask you about the veteran. What is the time that November the 9th? What are they?
Well, it'll be right after lunch. We usually serve lunch at 12, and we'll postpone the bingo a little bit.
Right.
And we'll serve probably cake and recognize veterans, probably around 12:30, quarter of one.
So most of the 60-year-olds, maybe not all of them, would be World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Vietnam, sure.
Right.
Sure, most likely.
I have a question for you. Thanksgiving. Tell us what you're going to be planning for that.
Excuse me. Thanksgiving is a great feast day here at the Senior Center because we always have a full course Thanksgiving dinner, and we have a special entertainer coming this year. He's been to the Senior Center 4 times already. His name is Johnny Costanzo.
Great,
Not
great.
Joey Canzano,
No.
but Johnny Costanzo, and everybody kind of mixes those guys up, and they're
Right.
2 different types of singers. And as you know, Johnny came in to the Senior Center in October,
Right.
and between you, me, and him, we had a sound check and a mic check, and you were playing CDs for him that would be used during this particular
But
entertainment.
let me say this, he has a great repertoire. I'm not going to mention it, but the people have to come down, and when they hear him, they'll enjoy him.
They will, and we have a very special, generous gift for this Thanksgiving to use when Johnny comes, and you know what that is, right?
Yep.
It's the microphone.
Oh, yes, we got to
I have
thank,
to thank Revere TV.
but you also have to thank Mr. Bob Dunbar.
Absolutely. We do have a wireless mic, and we have a regular wired mic
Right.
on a stand. And, excuse me, but Revere TV obviously has very professionally, very expensive mics, and Bob has allowed us to let Johnny use these when he sings.
I'd like to say one thing. If anybody out there is listening and has a cordless mic that's really good and would like to donate it to the senior center, we would love to have it.
And
Love to
I
have
love
it.
that way of thinking too. Anything we can get free for the seniors is good for me.
And the people that do donate it, they're going to be a senior someday too.
They will. And,
Okay.
yep. So for the Thanksgiving lunch, we're going to have, obviously, roast turkey with gravy. Instead of mashed potatoes, we're going to have baked potato with sour cream, corn, cranberry sauce, and a very special dessert.
You know what I like? Someday we'll have yams.
We could add yams to the mix here. That's
we
not a
can?
problem, yeah.
Okay. Hey, I got a good question for you. We got 2 vans now, so we can pick up a lot of people. Tell
Well,
us about
as you know, we did have 2 vans, and probably people are tired of me talking about this, but we had one that was disabled from July right through September. And if people are aware who watch Revere TV or who read the newspapers in Revere, we had a 2009 van donated by Cataldo Ambulance. So we've been up and running with 2 vans as we were before in the summer. And it's really important that people take advantage of them who are seniors. It's very low cost, very affordable. All you have to do is register at the senior center. You buy a book of coupons for $10. Each ride to and from wherever you're going is $1 or 1 coupon. You either can come right to the senior center and go home, or you can go to an appointment like a dentist or a doctor. You can go shopping to Market Basket or Stop and Shop. And on Wednesdays, we do go outside the city for 2 special runs, one to Walmart in Lynn and the other to the Square One Mall in Saugus.
When you go out to the Walmart, Linda, do you wait for the people or you know?
No, what happens is the driver usually, say he has 3 or 4 people that he's dropping off there, he'll arrange a time, give them like an hour or an hour and a half and come back. You know, the thing is, we are so busy, we can't keep going back and forth to Lynn or Saugus as an individual run.
When is that? Once they go to Walmart and then to...
We do both, but you have to understand that you have to be flexible. Again, it depends on the schedule of that day. You know, medical appointments do take priority, and we do take people to a lot of medical appointments. Only in Revere, with the exception being Beth Israel, which is right over the line in Chelsea.
Right, and people can call you the same day or they have to call you the day before?
No, they really have to call the day before. I encourage people to call 2 or 3 days ahead of time. That's how busy we are. There are a lot of seniors in Revere, and they're not going to find this affordable shuttle price anywhere else. You can't do it.
And we also go, I believe, just over the border of Revere to Chelsea.
Where the Beth Israel is,
Yeah.
if you're familiar where the Walmart,
The Walmart is in Chelsea.
Walgreens is
Yeah,
in Chelsea,
Walgreens,
right
right.
over the bridge near the skating
Yeah.
rink. The Beth Israel is right there, so we'll go there as well.
Oh, okay, and the other places that we
So,
go.
you know, now that we're in November, how about I give people who are seniors and watching that come to the senior center or who may, what our cancellation policy is?
I was going to get this about the weather cancellation.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to mention the word snow.
Go ahead.
I mean, here we are in November, but you know it's coming. So as far as the Rossetti Cowan Senior Center weather cancellation policy, it goes like this. The senior center will be closed and the senior shuttle van will not operate when the Revere Public Schools are canceled due to inclement weather. So please be advised that if the weather is creating a commuting problem, regardless of whether or not the schools are closed, you really should call the senior center at 781-286-8156 to see if the van is running or not, or we're open. Sometimes the schools wait. Sometimes we are open if we can't wait for the school to make an announcement. And the other thing is, I just want people to know, you can still call the senior center if it's closed to the public and the Revere schools are closed. Myself and the staff do go in, despite the fact that it may be closed to the public.
I would like you to talk about the open enrollment for Medicare because that goes from October the 15th till December the 7th. It'll be too late in December.
Right. The Medicare prescription drug program or a Medicare Advantage plan should be received by seniors between October 15th and December 7th, which is the open enrollment period. And what that does is it gives seniors on these plans an opportunity to change their plan for 2018. So the Medicare enrollment plan offers you the chance to change either all or some of your Medicare coverage.
Excuse me, when you say change, Steve, like we get Part A and Part B, what is Part D? I'm not familiar with.
That's the drug program.
Oh,
Okay, there's a separate supplement.
that has
for
nothing
drug.
to do with Part A and
Well,
Part
it's a comprehensive program that is individually acceptable.
So in other words, if a person doesn't have Part D, he can add it on between now and December the 7th.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, there are a couple of numbers. Now, I want people at home to know that we do have a SHINE counselor at the senior center. SHINE standing for Serving the Health Insurance Needs of Everyone. And at the senior center, we have a volunteer SHINE counselor who's been coming many, many years. Her name is Barry. And if you call the senior center ahead of time at 781-286-8156, you can make an appointment. Barry is there usually every Monday between 10 a.m. and 2:30 p.m.
Steve, excuse me, we got a minute and a half left. You wanted to talk about health and exercise. Just leave me 20 seconds.
Oh my word, here we go. We're off to the races. So our health and exercise classes are doing very well. I encourage people to come to the senior center and take either the core and balance class, which is 3 days a week. You don't have to take all three. It's free. You can take the combination exercise class as well. Currently, we're reviewing Tai Chi, Zumba Gold, and yoga and meditation. Those instructors are revamping their programs, trying to make them more exciting and more encouraging for people to take them, and those will restart in January.
Excuse me, are we going to have another return of Carol Donovan, the nurse?
In regard to the flu shot, at this point in time, I am not sure, but I do encourage people to watch Revere TV for an announcement, because we will put it on the community bulletin. You can call the senior center, or you can call the public health department as well.
Right.
We're out of time already. I can't believe it.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up then. So I want to thank the people of Revere for tuning in. I want to thank you all. God bless you. God bless you, Steve. God bless our troops. And most of all, God bless our great country, the United States of America. And I would like to say one more time, thanks to country lawyer Steve Reardon for appearing on the show. And he'll be back with us at another time and another date for more information. Thank you.
And as we say at the Senior Center, come on down.
Right.
We want you. We need you.
Right. There we go.